Hello and welcome to The Top Story, a podcast with the headlines of the day from our correspondents around the world. I'm Qizhi. Coming up in this edition, France's far-right party, the National Rally, has won the first round of snap legislative elections. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to continue military operations until Israel achieves its goals, while Hamas says it is open to any proposal aimed at achieving a permanent ceasefire. And Hong Kong marks the 27th anniversary of its return to China. We begin in Europe. France's far-right National Rally and its allies have emerged as the winner in the first round of snap parliamentary elections. National Rally gained about 33% of the vote. The new Popular Front, the left-wing alliance, is in second with around 28%. President Emmanuel Macron's centrist coalition has taken third place with around 22%. The next round of voting is set for Sunday. William Densler reports from Paris.
The long-standing figurehead for the National Rally, Marine Le Pen, says that the high voter turnout that we saw in this first round of voting in the French parliamentary elections further provided legitimacy for the strong showing we saw from the National Rally. However, Marine Le Pen has urged her supporters to keep mobilising with just a week to go until the second round, this runoff vote here in France. She says that that is important because they want to seek an absolute majority, which could see Jordan Bardella, the leader of the National Rally, become the new Prime Minister in France. Emmanuel Macron, the French president, has urged his supporters to do all in their power to prevent that from happening. Opponents of the National Rally have for weeks been campaigning, saying that the National Rally and the rise of the far right would be dangerous, not only for the international community, but here in France as well, saying even that the National Rally would be a pro-Kremlin voice here in Paris going forward. So a strong message there, and the National Rally in recent weeks have been trying to distance themselves away from that, with Jordan Bardella even saying that Moscow poses a multi-dimensional threat. When it comes to Emmanuel Macron's plans to thwart the rise of the National Rally, he is calling for a clear democratic alliance for the second round. That is a point somewhat reiterated by leaders of the left-wing coalition, the New Popular Front, who have even suggested that they will drop their candidates in some races next week where they came in third position. So we're already seeing some tactical decisions being made, all in an effort from the opponents of the National Rally to stop that far-right group from seeking an absolute majority.
That was William Denslow on the French snap elections. Elsewhere in Europe, the condition of Britain's waterways and beaches is an important issue for millions of voters in the upcoming general election on Thursday. With water bills expected to rise next year, there are questions about how much companies actually invest in handling pollution and waste. At the end of last year, a poll suggested more than half of UK voters were concerned about river pollution. That jumped to 60% in key Conservative parliamentary seats. Clean water campaigners in England's south are determined to unseat as many Tories as possible. Ilo Abdafid reports from the coast town of Eastbourne.
Summer means tourists, a place to enjoy the sea air, have some space and sometimes enjoy the sun. There is something else along the south coast of England: sewage.
If we don't fight this sort of thing, we will get what we deserve, and that will be rubbish waterway and sewage in our streams and rivers.
An increasing number of swimmers venture out to sea all year round. Carolyn and up to 40 of her friends take the plunge 4 or 5 times a week.
Water is a vital resource. We need to look after it. The trouble with Britain at the moment, it's in such a bally mess. Every single area you think of, the judiciary, the police, education, NHS, armed forces, they've all been so underfunded, everything is on its knees.
Tens of thousands of voters in dozens of parliamentary constituencies blame water companies, regulators and the government for not stopping sewage pollution in recent years.
Distributing clean water and getting rid of wastewater is a privatised business in many parts of the UK. The company with a contract in this region is Southern Water. It is reported that it hopes to increase its water bills in the next 5 years by up to 91%. Across England, last year, there was a recorded almost 500,000 sewage spills across the country, up 54% in contrast to the previous year. It does explain why there is so much frustration and anger felt by many voters.
They sort of say, oh, everything's fine, and yet, there's thousands of hours of sewage going into the sea, which can't be good.
I think a lot of people will change the way they vote.
We've got to sort out the sewage in the waters, because I know people who do go and swim there and they're disgusting.
More than a quarter of the population is aged 65 or over, in a region which is more affluent than many others in Britain. But after 14 years and 5 Conservative Prime Ministers, there's despair with failing public services.
Where we're standing now, I'm looking across to it at Splash Point, Cliff End, Seaford Head. There is an out, and that's had quite a lot of sewage spills and outfall from there. It's dangerous, it's unhealthy, it's a health hazard, absolutely a health hazard.
For the first time, some are refusing to pay a percentage of their water bills. Others are considering joining the protest. Many voters have already decided to punish the government in a shifting political time.
That was Elo Abdafid on the UK's river pollution, a central issue at the upcoming general election. Turning to the Middle East, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to continue military operations until Israel achieves its goals. They include the destruction of Hamas's military and governing capabilities and ensuring that Gaza no longer poses a threat to Israel. Hamas says it is open to any proposal aimed at achieving a permanent ceasefire in Gaza and a complete withdrawal of Israeli troops. The statement comes as protests continue in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. Jonathan Regev has more.
Protests that have been going on for a year and a half since this government took office, way before the October 7th attacks. The one thing that would perhaps put Netanyahu in some kind of a problem is if the protesters will be able to persuade, to convince some members of a 64-member coalition to go along with the opposition. That seemed not to be happening up until a month ago, but then a series of controversial draft bills or controversial parliamentary bills have been put up by Netanyahu's partners in parliament, and we've already heard from some members of Netanyahu's Likud party saying that they oppose those bills, such as a bill that the coalition is trying to promote that will exempt one way or another, continue the exemption of ultra-Orthodox from enlisting into the army. So the protests itself, they're violent, but they've not gotten more violent in the past weeks. Yes, there has been quite an instance in which a scuffle broke out between a policeman and a member of parliament from the Labour Party. That created some headlines, but the protest itself was not bigger or more violent than in recent weeks. But there seems to be more and more pressure on members of the coalition to perhaps join the opposition, and that will certainly put pressure on Netanyahu.
That was Jonathan Regev reporting. Gaza-based health authorities say the Palestinian death toll in the Gaza Strip has risen to more than 37,800. In its northern Shujayyah district, heavy battles and bombardment have continued for days. The United Nations estimates that 60,000 to 80,000 people have been displaced from the district since new fighting broke out there on Thursday. And in the southern Rafah area, the Israeli military reported clashes with Palestinian fighters. Akram al-Satari has more.
Fighting is very intense. The number of houses that are destroyed and even burned by the Israeli occupation forces is increasing by the second. The sound of the bombardment, be it artillery fire or a quadcopter fire or even F-16 targeting, is non-stop for the last days. According to the Israeli sources, it is a continuous operation in that particular area for the sake of identifying information that are likely to lead to the Israeli captive. What really concerns the Palestinians is not the story or the narrative that has been provided by Israel. It's rather the displacement that has resulted from the ongoing operation in that area. Tens or even hundreds of houses were destroyed. According to the Palestinian sources, hundreds of Palestinians are killed and trapped in their homes or in the streets, and no one can attend them. No one can rescue the ones who are injured, and some of them are now already dead because of the fact that the ambulance services or the civil defense services cannot reach them. According to the eyewitnesses, and I am one of them, the Israeli helicopters are landing and then flying and then landing and then flying and then shooting at some targets on the ground, which is indicative of the very fierce fighting that has been taking place. According to the Palestinian resistance, some of the releases that were made were video releases showing the Palestinian resistance fighting, attacking, and destroying the Israeli armored vehicles that have been advancing into Rafah. And it also showed that the Palestinian resistance is still insisting on continuing the fight against the Israeli troops who have been advancing into Rafah.
That was Alcom Al-Satari reporting. Finally, in Asia, Monday marks the 27th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China. The regional government has followed the time-honored tradition by holding a flag-raising ceremony to commemorate the occasion. Chief Executive John Lee and other senior government officials and community leaders attended the ceremony. Afterwards, the regional government hosted a reception at the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Centre. A series of other celebration activities are also underway across the city. For more on this, here's Ann Chen.
A flag-raising ceremony was held to kick off the festivities. It was led by Chief Executive John Lee, who shared that Beijing has taken up his request and will be gifting a pair of pandas to Hong Kong in a few months. With this addition, there will be a total of 6 pandas in the city. And at the ceremony, the police band performed, and a choir from a secondary school sang the national anthem. This was followed by a fly past and a sea parade. But that's not all. The city has rolled out a wide array of special offers that cover public transport, arts and culture, as well as dining and consumption. For example, free admission is offered at selected exhibitions at museums like the Science Museum and M+ Museum. I'm at the M+ Museum where people are taking advantage of the free admission. Earlier in the morning, there were bigger crowds lining up, but it seems that there is still a continuous line of people filtering in. Meanwhile, for public transport, all tram rides are free, and children aged 3 to 11 years old can get free rides on the subway, which is known as the MTR here in Hong Kong. The Star Ferry is also offering free rides for the route between Wan Chai and Tsim Sha Tsui districts, and access to public swimming pools and sporting facilities are also free. As for dining, over 2,000 catering businesses are offering discounts, and many are offering discounts related to the numbers 7 and 1, which is a play on the digits of July 1st. So, for example, a popular bakery is offering egg tarts discounted at 7.1 Hong Kong dollars, and many restaurants are offering food or drinks at 71% of the original price. And for shopping, there are many discounts at places like the popular supermarket Welcome, as well as some markets and Hong Kong's airport.
That was Ann Chen on the festivities in Hong Kong as Monday marks the 27th year of his return to China. And recapping today's headlines, France's far-right national rally has won the first round of parliamentary elections. President Emmanuel Macron is now calling for a broad democratic alliance against it in a second round. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to continue military operations until Israel achieves its goals. And Hong Kong has marked the 27th anniversary of its return to China, with Chief Executive John Lee vowing to make the city more competitive in areas such as talents, the sci-tech sector and the capital. And that's it for this edition of The Top Story, a podcast that brings you world headlines every weekday. For more news in politics, business, sports and culture, you can subscribe to the Beijing Hour, a 1-hour podcast news magazine program. We welcome and appreciate all ratings and reviews. I'm Qi Zhi. Thank you for listening.